What if the most powerful healing drinks on the planet weren't formulated in a lab, bottled in a factory, or sold at a pharmacy, but were poured into clay cups thousands of years ago by the healthiest people who ever lived? Most people have no idea that while we're spending a fortune on protein shakes, sports drinks, and detox teas, the Bible was already prescribing specific drinks that modern science is now proving can fight infection, reverse inflammation, balance blood sugar, and transform your health from the inside out. These aren't just symbolic beverages, they're functional medicines, and the research behind them is stunning. Today, I'm going to walk you through 20 of them, ranked from extraordinary to absolutely life-changing. Stick around, because number 15 on this list was literally one of the gifts brought to the newborn Jesus. And researchers are now discovering it may be one of the most potent anti-inflammatory compounds ever studied. And number 20, the one that closes this list, comes straight from Psalm 51, one of the most famous verses in all of Scripture. And what it does to your lungs and sinuses will completely change how you think about that verse forever. If you want ancient wisdom backed by modern science, delivered straight to you every week, hit that subscribe button right now. You do not want to miss what's coming. Here are 20 biblical drinks that will heal you, ranked from extraordinary to absolutely life-changing. 1. Honey Water Elixir, heaven's antimicrobial tonic, a land flowing with milk and honey. Exodus 3:8. Let's begin where the Bible begins, when it describes a life of abundance. Honey, not honey in a jar, not honey on a biscuit, honey dissolved in water, the original healing elixir of the ancient world. The phrase, a land flowing with milk and honey, appears over 20 times in Scripture. It wasn't just poetry. It was a description of nutritional paradise. And the simplest, most direct way the people of that land consumed their honey, they mixed it with water and drank it. Here's what modern science has confirmed about raw honey water that would have shocked nobody in the ancient world. It is one of the most powerful natural antimicrobials ever identified. Raw honey contains hydrogen peroxide, a low pH that kills pathogens, and a protein called defensin 1 that actively destroys bacteria, including antibiotic-resistant MRSA. Dissolved in water, it becomes an instantly bioavailable tonic that soothes inflamed throat tissue, calms the gut lining, and provides rapid energy without the insulin spike of refined sugar. The critical word, as always, is raw. The moment honey is heated past about 40 degrees Celsius, the enzymes and antimicrobial compounds begin to degrade. The honey your ancestors drank, harvested directly from hives, unfiltered, unheated, was functionally different from the clear, shelf-stable syrup in most grocery stores. Traditional preparation: 1 tablespoon of raw honey stirred into a cup of warm, not boiling, water. Squeeze of lemon if you have it. Taken first thing in the morning at the first sign of illness, or before bed as a calming tonic. Archaeologists have found 3,000-year-old honey in Egyptian tombs that was still edible. This drink doesn't expire, and neither does the science behind why it works. 2. Warm spiced wine, the ancient circulation tonic. Use a little wine for your stomach's sake. 1 Timothy 5:23. Paul's instruction to Timothy is one of the most direct medicinal prescriptions in all of Scripture. He doesn't say wine is spiritual. He says it's for the stomach, for health. Use it. The wine of the ancient world was not what fills most modern glasses. It was lower in alcohol, almost always diluted with water, and typically infused with herbs and spices, cinnamon, cloves, black pepper, ginger, that transformed it into something closer to what we'd call a medicinal tonic than a recreational drink. Warm spiced wine, consumed in moderation with food, has legitimate science behind every component. The polyphenols in red wine, resveratrol and proanthocyanidins from the grape skins, have been studied for decades for their cardiovascular effects. Moderate red wine consumption is associated with improved HDL cholesterol and reduced platelet aggregation. The spices added in antiquity weren't just for flavor. Cinnamon regulates blood sugar. Cloves are among the highest antioxidant foods ever measured. Ginger reduces inflammation. Warming the drink opens up these volatile compounds and makes them more available to the body. The so-called French paradox, low rates of heart disease despite a rich traditional diet, has been partly attributed to this kind of moderate, food-centered wine consumption. The key phrase, as scripture itself suggests, is moderation. 1 small cup with a meal as part of a whole food diet. The way people actually drank in the biblical world, diluted, spiced, shared, is a radically different thing from modern drinking culture. This drink has a place on this list precisely because of how it was used. Purposefully, sparingly, as medicine. 3. Vinegar and water tonic, Posca style. The soldier's gut drink. They gave him vinegar to drink. Matthew 27:48. This one surprises people because the vinegar offered to Jesus at the crucifixion is often read as cruelty. But it wasn't. Posca, vinegar diluted with water, was the standard drink of Roman soldiers. It was what legions drank on long campaigns. Tough, practical men who needed to stay healthy in unsanitary conditions chose this drink. And now, we know why. Apple cider vinegar and wine vinegar both contain acetic acid, which has documented antimicrobial properties against common gut pathogens. Studies have shown it suppresses the growth of E. coli and Salmonella in the digestive tract. In a world without clean water infrastructure, a small amount of vinegar mixed into water was genuine protection against waterborne illness. But the modern science goes further. Multiple clinical trials have shown that consuming diluted vinegar before meals measurably lowers post-meal blood sugar spikes in people with insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes by slowing the absorption of glucose from the gut. It also appears to support the growth of beneficial gut bacteria and strengthen the mucus lining of the intestines. The soldiers of Rome weren't primitive. They were pragmatic. They had stumbled onto a functional gut health drink through centuries of field experience, long before anyone understood the mechanism. Traditional preparation: 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, the kind with the mother still in it, in a glass of water, taken before meals. If the taste is sharp, add a small amount of raw honey. That combination has been used medicinally for thousands of years and gives you the antimicrobial benefits of both. 4. Pomegranate juice, the antioxidant king. Your temples are like a half of a pomegranate. Song of Solomon 6:7. The pomegranate appears in the ornamentation of Solomon's temple, in the poetry of scripture, and in Mosaic law as a symbol of abundance and divine blessing. There were 200 carved pomegranates on the pillars of that temple. This wasn't decoration for its own sake. It was a statement about what this fruit meant, and modern antioxidant science is absolutely fascinated by it. Pomegranates contain a compound called punicalagin, found almost nowhere else in nature, that breaks down in the gut into urolithins. These compounds have shown remarkable anti-inflammatory and potential anti-cancer effects in research. Pomegranate juice has been demonstrated in clinical trials to reduce blood pressure, lower LDL oxidation, improve arterial health, and reduce inflammation markers, including CRP. In terms of antioxidant concentration, fresh pomegranate juice outranks red wine, green tea, and blueberry juice. The whole fruit provides the full spectrum of these compounds: seeds, membrane, and juice, working together the way the body evolved to receive them. Traditional healers across the Middle East used every part of this fruit: the juice for cardiovascular support, the seeds eaten whole for fiber and mineral density, the dried rind, which most people discard, steeped into tea for gut infections, intestinal parasites, and inflammatory bowel conditions. The traditional preparation is simple. Press the seeds fresh and drink the juice immediately. Store-bought pomegranate juice works, but look for varieties with no added sugar and no juice concentrate. The real thing is worth the extra effort, and the effort of extracting those jewel-like seeds is part of the point. The most valuable things in the ancient world required work. 5. Goat milk and honey drink, the probiotic of the promised land. A land flowing with milk and honey. Exodus 3:8. The land of promise was flowing with milk, but not the milk most people picture. This was not pasteurized, homogenized, vitamin D fortified cow's milk from an industrial dairy. The milk of the ancient Middle East was almost entirely goat's milk, a fundamentally different food that the human gut handles in a fundamentally different way. Goat's milk has smaller fat globules and a different protein structure than cow's milk. Its primary protein is A2-casein rather than the A1-casein found in most commercial cow's milk. And A1-casein is the protein that many researchers believe triggers the inflammatory digestive response that so many people associate with dairy intolerance. Fresh, traditionally produced goat's milk is also naturally rich in beneficial bacteria. It is, in its unprocessed form, a living probiotic food. Studies confirm that goat's milk is easier to digest for people who struggle with cow's milk, produces less inflammatory response in the gut lining, and has a prebiotic effect that supports beneficial microflora. Its calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium are highly bioavailable, and it contains medium-chain fatty acids, particularly caprylic acid, with documented antimicrobial and antifungal properties. Combined with raw honey, you have a drink that is simultaneously probiotic, prebiotic, antimicrobial, mineral-rich, and deeply nourishing. It was consumed in the ancient world as a morning tonic, a recovery drink after illness, and a staple for young children and the elderly. Warm slightly, not boiling. Stir in a tablespoon of raw honey. Drink it the way the inhabitants of the Promised Land drank it, slowly, gratefully, knowing that this simple cup was doing serious work. 6. Barley Water. The humble healer. There is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. John 6:9. Barley was the grain of ordinary people. When Jesus multiplied the loaves for 5,000, those were barley loaves, the food of the poor, of laborers, of soldiers on campaign. And it turns out those ordinary people were drinking one of the most therapeutically powerful grain waters ever studied. Barley water, made by simmering whole barley in water and drinking the liquid, concentrates the grain's extraordinary beta-glucan content. Beta-glucan is a soluble fiber so convincingly proven to lower cholesterol and stabilize blood sugar that the FDA allows a health claim on food products containing it. It forms a gel in the gut that slows glucose absorption, reduces LDL cholesterol, feeds beneficial bacteria, and enhances immune function. Barley water has a lower glycemic impact than virtually any other grain-based drink. Studies show it outperforms oat water, already considered heart-healthy, in its effects on post-meal blood sugar. It is rich in magnesium, phosphorus, and B vitamins. And because the fiber stays partially in the water, even after the grain is strained out, you get real therapeutic benefit from just drinking the liquid. Traditional preparation across the ancient Middle East and Mediterranean. Simmer a cup of hulled barley in several cups of water for an hour. Strain. Add lemon and a touch of raw honey if desired. Drink warm or cool throughout the day. This was used for kidney support, fever recovery, digestive upset, and general convalescence. Modern hospitals in the pre-pharmaceutical era served barley water to recovering patients as a matter of routine. The grain of the poor was the medicine of the wise. 7. Fig infusion, the drink of prophets and healers. Let them take a lump of figs and apply it to the boil. Isaiah 38:21. Here is a detail most people miss. When King Hezekiah was dying from a deadly infection, a severe skin ulcer, the prophet Isaiah didn't just pray over him. He ordered a poultice of figs pressed onto the wound, and Hezekiah recovered. Modern science has caught up to Isaiah's prescription. Figs contain phycin, a proteolytic enzyme that breaks down dead tissue and promotes wound healing, along with compounds with documented antimicrobial properties. But figs aren't just for wounds. As a drink, a fig infusion made from dried or fresh figs steeped in hot water delivers soluble fiber, particularly pectin, that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, soothes intestinal inflammation, and regulates bowel function. Figs are extraordinarily mineral dense. Magnesium, potassium, calcium, and B vitamins in concentrations that make them one of the most complete plant foods available. In a world without multivitamins, figs were the supplement. In a world without sports drinks, fig water was the recovery tonic. Traditional preparation. Steep 4 to 6 dried figs in 2 cups of hot water for 20 to 30 minutes. Press the figs to release their natural sugars and fiber compounds. Strain or drink with the softened fruit. Add cinnamon for additional blood sugar support. This drink was used throughout the ancient Middle East for digestive complaints, constipation, fatigue, and as a restorative after illness. The prophet didn't reach for figs by accident. He reached for them because generations of observation had proven they worked. 8. Date and almond milk, the original energy drink. They gave him a piece of a cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins, and when he had eaten, his spirit came again. 1 Samuel 30:12. If you were a soldier, a trader, or a pilgrim crossing the ancient Middle East, two foods kept you alive above all others: dates and almonds. The date palm is mentioned more than any other fruit tree in the Bible and the Quran combined, not celebrated for its beauty, but for its ability to sustain life in the harshest conditions imaginable. As a drink, dates blended or steeped with almond milk. This combination delivers rapid natural sugar energy from the dates alongside the slow-burning healthy fats, vitamin E, and magnesium of the almonds. The dates provide glucose and fructose for immediate energy. The almonds moderate the blood sugar response, providing sustained fuel rather than a spike and crash. Studies on dates specifically show they improve iron levels, support bone density, and contain polyphenols and antioxidants that reduce inflammation. Clinical trials have found that women who consumed dates in the final weeks of pregnancy had significantly faster and easier deliveries. Almonds, meanwhile, have been shown in clinical research to lower LDL cholesterol, reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes, and improve gut microbiome diversity. Together as a drink, this is one of the most complete nutritional combinations you can consume. Traditional preparation: soak 6 to 8 medjool dates overnight. Blend them with 2 cups of almond milk, ideally homemade from soaked raw almonds, and a pinch of cinnamon. No added sugar needed. The dates bring everything. This is the drink that powered the ancient world's most demanding journeys. 9. Mint and hyssop herbal tea. The purification drink. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Psalm 51:7. Hyssop appears in the purification rituals of Leviticus. It appears at the Passover, where bundles of hyssop were used to apply the blood to the doorposts. And it appears at the crucifixion, where the sponge was offered to Jesus on a hyssop branch. For centuries, this was treated as purely ceremonial. And then researchers started analyzing hyssop and found that the symbolism was built on something real. Hyssop contains carvacrol and thymol, the same antimicrobial compounds found in oregano and thyme, two of the most powerful natural antiseptics known. Studies have confirmed that hyssop has genuine antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties. It has been shown to inhibit the herpes simplex virus. Its expectorant compounds help clear mucus from the lungs, and its anti-inflammatory effects explain its long traditional use for respiratory infections. Combined with mint, which relaxes smooth muscle in the digestive tract, reducing spasms and cramping, and has its own documented antimicrobial properties. You have a tea that works simultaneously on the gut and the respiratory system. Traditional preparation: 1 teaspoon dried hyssop and 1 teaspoon fresh or dried mint steeped in boiling water for 10 minutes. Strain and drink hot. Add raw honey, used across the ancient world for coughs, bronchitis, colds, digestive upset, and as a cleansing morning tea. The purification rituals of Leviticus weren't just spiritual. God's instructions were practical. They worked. 10. Olive leaf tea. The immune system's ancient guardian. Its leaf will not wither, and its fruit will not fail. Its fruit will be for food, and its leaf for healing. Ezekiel 47:12. Ezekiel's vision of the healing tree with leaves for medicine reads like prophecy, but it also reads like pharmacology. The olive tree is one of the most sacred plants in all of Scripture, mentioned over 500 times. Its oil-anointed kings, its branches symbolized peace, and its leaves, largely forgotten by the modern world, contain one of the most powerful antiviral compounds ever identified in a plant. Oleuropein, the primary active compound in olive leaves, has been shown in studies to be directly antiviral against a remarkably broad range of pathogens, including influenza viruses, herpes viruses, and retroviruses. It is also strongly antibacterial and antifungal. Studies show it lowers blood pressure, reduces inflammation, and has antioxidant activity that rivals vitamin E. Olive leaf tea was used medicinally throughout the ancient Mediterranean for fever, infections, and what we'd now call immune dysfunction. Traditional healers across Greece, Italy, North Africa, and the Middle East reached for olive leaves when illness came, not the olive oil. The leaves were the medicine cabinet. Traditional preparation: steep 1 tablespoon of dried olive leaves in boiling water for 15 minutes. Strain. Drink 2 to 3 cups daily at the onset of illness, or regularly as immune maintenance. The taste is slightly bitter and earthy, a hallmark of genuine medicinal potency. The ancient world knew that if a plant tasted medicine, it probably was medicine. They were right. 11. Grape juice. Unfermented. The longevity drink. I am the vine. You are the branches. John 15:5. The vine is one of the most spiritually loaded plants in all of Scripture. Grapes appear at Noah's first act after the flood, throughout the Song of Solomon, in virtually every agricultural metaphor Jesus uses. This plant was central to life in the ancient world, and it turns out, for very good biological reason. Fresh grape juice, particularly dark grape juice pressed with the skins, contains resveratrol, quercetin, and anthocyanins in concentrations that have made it one of the most studied beverages in longevity research. Resveratrol activates sirtuins, proteins associated with cellular repair and extended lifespan. It has been one of the most exciting compounds in aging research for 2 decades. The skin and seeds contain the highest concentration of these compounds. Fresh, whole-pressed juice, skins included, provides the full spectrum of these polyphenols alongside potassium, vitamin C, and vitamin K. Studies show it supports arterial health, reduces LDL oxidation, lowers blood pressure, and reduces inflammatory markers. The key distinction from wine is the absence of alcohol, which means all of the antioxidant benefit without the neurological effects of ethanol. For those who don't consume alcohol, high-quality dark grape juice provides essentially the same cardiovascular polyphenols. Traditional preparation: press fresh dark grapes, Concord, black, or any dark skin variety, without straining out the skins. Drink immediately or within 24 hours while the volatile compounds are still active. This was available seasonally in the ancient world and celebrated precisely because it was fleeting and precious. Make it fresh. Drink it with gratitude. 12. Lentil broth, the strength of prophets. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew. Genesis 25:34. The Bible's most famous lentil story is usually read as a cautionary tale. Esau trades his birthright for a bowl of red lentil stew, but that reading misses something. In the ancient world, lentils weren't peasant food. They were survival food. Dense, filling, shelf-stable for years, and nutritionally extraordinary. As a drink, lentil broth made from slow-cooked red or green lentils. You extract the soluble mineral and protein content into the liquid itself. The broth concentrates iron, folate, zinc, magnesium, and potassium in a form the gut can absorb immediately. It provides plant-based protein compounds that support muscle repair and sustained energy. Modern nutrition science confirms that lentils have a remarkably low glycemic index, despite their carbohydrate content. Regular legume consumption is one of the strongest predictors of healthy aging. In population research, communities around the world that live the longest, the so-called blue zones, consistently eat large amounts of legumes. As a drink, lentil broth is warming, grounding, and deeply nourishing in a way that speaks to something ancient in the body. Traditional preparation: simmer red lentils in water with cumin, coriander, and garlic for 45 minutes. Strain off the liquid, or blend the whole thing thin. Season with salt and lemon. Drink warm as a recovery tonic, a meal replacement in times of illness, or a daily mineral drink. Esau may have been rash, but his instincts about the lentil stew were not wrong. 13. Cumin and warm water. Digestive drink, the spice. Jesus named, "You tithe mint and dill and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law." Matthew 23:23. This is the only spice on this list specifically named by Jesus, and the fact that cumin was being tithed, offered as a portion of its value to God, tells you exactly how prized it was. You tithe things of real worth. Cumin was worth tithing. Cumin has been used medically for at least 4,000 years across the Middle East, India, and North Africa, specifically for digestion, blood sugar, and infection. And modern research has validated every one of those traditional uses. Cumin contains a compound called cuminaldehyde with demonstrated antimicrobial effects against a broad range of bacteria and fungi. Studies show cumin can lower fasting blood sugar and improve insulin sensitivity in people with type 2 diabetes. It stimulates bile production and digestive enzyme activity, reducing bloating, gas, and indigestion at a biological level. And 3 grams of cumin provides approximately 20% of daily iron needs. As a drink, Cumin seeds steeped or lightly simmered in warm water. You extract these active compounds directly and get them into the gut quickly. Traditional preparation. Lightly toast 1 teaspoon of whole cumin seeds in a dry pan until fragrant. Add to 2 cups of boiling water. Steep 10 minutes. Strain and drink warm, especially after a heavy meal or at the first sign of digestive discomfort. A pinch of salt and lemon brightens the flavor. The ancient world used it daily and intuitively. Modern science is methodically confirming exactly why that instinct was right. 14. Coriander seed tea, the detox. Hidden in manna. It was like coriander seed, white. Exodus 16:31. When God provided manna in the wilderness, the most miraculous food event in all of Scripture, the text compares it to coriander seed. Whether that's precise botanical identification or poetic comparison, coriander seed appears in the most extraordinary food story ever told. That is not nothing. Coriander seed, the dried fruit of the cilantro plant, has a rich medicinal history across Egyptian, Persian, and Israelite cultures. It was found in Tutankhamun's tomb, and modern research has found that it delivers something the ancient world could only observe without explaining: genuine anxiolytic effects. Animal studies show coriander reduces anxiety, comparably to pharmaceutical diazepam in certain models. But its most fascinating modern application is in heavy metal detoxification. Preliminary research suggests cilantro and coriander can help mobilize mercury, lead, and other heavy metals from body tissues, binding to them and facilitating their elimination. In a world of increasingly widespread heavy metal exposure, this ancient herb is suddenly very relevant. Its digestive benefits are thoroughly established. Coriander seed tea reduces intestinal spasms, has carminative effects that clear gas and bloating, and supports liver enzyme activity involved in detoxification. Traditional preparation: crush 1 teaspoon of whole coriander seeds lightly with the back of a spoon to crack them open. Steep in boiling water for 10 to 15 minutes. Strain. Drink warm, especially first thing in the morning as a cleansing tea. The taste is warm, slightly citrusy, and far more pleasant than most medicinal teas. It was everywhere in biblical cuisine for the same reason it's everywhere in traditional cuisines today. It made people feel better after eating. That observation has never been wrong. 15. Frankincense infused water, the gift that healed. They presented to him gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Matthew 2:11. Here we arrive at the drink I teased at the beginning: frankincense, one of the 3 gifts brought to the newborn Jesus. For most of Christian history, this has been treated as purely symbolic, a recognition of his divine kingship. And then researchers began studying the active compounds in frankincense and found that what the Magi brought was, among other things, one of the most potent anti-inflammatory substances ever identified. Frankincense resin from the Boswellia tree contains compounds called boswellic acids, particularly AKBA, acetyl-11-keto-beta-boswellic acid, which have been shown in clinical trials to inhibit the specific inflammatory enzyme 5-lipoxygenase, the same pathway targeted by many modern anti-inflammatory drugs. Studies show boswellic acids reduce inflammation in conditions including inflammatory bowel disease, osteoarthritis, and asthma, with effectiveness comparable to pharmaceutical interventions, but without the side effects. Frankincense water, made by steeping a small piece of food-grade Boswellia resin in water overnight, has been used in traditional Ayurvedic and Middle Eastern medicine for centuries. It has a mild, slightly piney, resinous flavor that is surprisingly pleasant. It is calming to the nervous system, supports immune function, and reduces systemic inflammation at the cellular level. Traditional preparation: take a small piece of food-grade frankincense resin, about the size of a pea, and steep it in a cup of cold or room-temperature water overnight. The resin softens and releases its water-soluble compounds. Drink in the morning on an empty stomach. The Magi understood value. What they brought was not just symbolic gold. It was medicine. 16. Myrrh, bitter tonic, the antiseptic of the ancient world. They offered him wine mixed with myrrh. Mark 15:23. Myrrh appears at the beginning of Jesus' life and at the end, brought as a gift at his birth, offered in wine at his crucifixion, used in his burial. In every instance, myrrh is functioning as medicine, as it had for thousands of years throughout Egypt, Israel, and the wider ancient world. Myrrh resin from the Commiphora tree contains compounds called sesquiterpenes that have documented antiseptic, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial properties. Egyptian medical texts dating back over 3,000 years list myrrh in preparations for wound care, oral infections, and digestive complaints. Modern studies confirm it has broad-spectrum antibacterial and antifungal activity, and it has been shown to be effective against certain gut parasites. As a tonic, a small amount of myrrh tincture or steeped resin in warm water. It supports oral health by reducing bacteria in the mouth, supports gut health by acting against pathogenic organisms in the digestive tract, and has anti-inflammatory effects throughout the body. The bitterness is real and intentional. Bitter compounds stimulate digestive enzyme production and bile flow, preparing the gut to absorb and process what comes next. Traditional preparation: a small amount of food-grade myrrh tincture, available from reputable herbal suppliers, added to warm water with honey to temper the bitterness, or steep a very small piece of the resin in hot water for 20 minutes. Start with small amounts. This is a potent plant medicine, not a casual beverage. The ancient world used it precisely because it worked. The bitterness was the point. 17. Ginger and honey brew. The anti-inflammatory fire drink. Spices, balm, and myrrh, spicery and laudanum, nuts, and almonds. Genesis 43:11. Ginger moved through the ancient trade routes of the Middle East for thousands of years, prized as spice, medicine, and currency. It appears in the broader category of the aromatic spices that Jacob sent as gifts to Egypt, and in traditional medicine across every culture it touched: Hebrew, Egyptian, Greek, Persian, Indian. It was used for the same things: digestion, pain, infection, and inflammation. Modern research on ginger is some of the most impressive in all of food pharmacology. Gingerols and shogalls, the active compounds in ginger, have been shown in clinical trials to reduce inflammatory markers, including CRP and TNF-alpha. Studies demonstrate ginger is as effective as ibuprofen for menstrual pain in clinical comparison. It reduces nausea with effectiveness demonstrated in chemotherapy patients, pregnant women, and post-surgical recovery. It stimulates digestive enzyme production, accelerates gastric emptying, and has direct antimicrobial effects. Combined with raw honey, you have one of the most therapeutically complete hot drinks ever created. The gingerols and honey's Defensin 1 work together as antimicrobials. The ginger's anti-inflammatory compounds combine with honey's antioxidants for systemic protection. Traditional preparation: slice or grate a generous thumb of fresh ginger root into 2 cups of water. Bring to a gentle simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. Strain into a mug. Allow to cool slightly. Never add honey to boiling liquid. Then stir in a generous tablespoon of raw honey. Drink at the first sign of cold or flu, after heavy meals for digestive support, or daily as an anti-inflammatory tonic. The ancient trade routes went a long way to carry this root. It was worth every mile. 18. Raisin water, the forgotten liver tonic. They gave him a piece of cake of raisins. 1 Samuel 30:12. Raisins appear throughout the Bible as concentrated nutrition, the portable, shelf-stable form of the grape, carried by armies and pilgrims across the ancient world. What most people don't know is that soaking raisins overnight and drinking the water they've steeped in creates one of the most effective traditional liver tonics ever used. Raisin water concentrates the tartaric acid and potassium bitartrate from the grape skins, compounds that stimulate bile production and support liver enzyme activity involved in detoxification. Studies on raisin consumption show improvements in liver function markers. The natural sugars, combined with the fiber compounds that leach into the water during soaking, provide energy with a moderated glycemic response. Raisins are a significant source of iron, making raisin water a traditional remedy for iron deficiency anemia going back centuries. The polyphenols that survive the drying process, particularly resveratrol and quercetin, are more concentrated per gram in raisins than in fresh grapes. The soaking water extracts these compounds along with potassium, which supports blood pressure regulation, and boron, which supports bone density. Traditional preparation: Soak 2 tablespoons of organic dark raisins in 2 cups of filtered water overnight, 8 to 12 hours. In the morning, strain and drink the liquid on an empty stomach before breakfast. The water will be lightly golden and mildly sweet. The ancients didn't understand why this worked the way they felt it working. The mechanism was always there, waiting for science to catch up. 19. Almond and Herbal Milk Elixir, the drink of watchfulness. What do you see, Jeremiah? And I said, I see a branch of an almond tree. Jeremiah 1:11. God used the almond tree to illustrate his watchfulness. The word for almond in Hebrew, shakt, shares a root with the word for watching. The almond is the first tree to blossom in spring, emerging while everything else still sleeps, vigilant and early. And it turns out the almond is nutritionally vigilant too, protecting the body at the cellular level in ways that align almost poetically with its scriptural significance. Almonds are among the most nutrient-dense foods on Earth, gram for gram. 1 ounce provides 37% of daily vitamin E, a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects cell membranes from oxidative damage, the kind of damage associated with aging and cognitive decline. Almonds are high in magnesium, which supports over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body and is deficient in a large proportion of the modern population. They provide monounsaturated fats, calcium, and prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Almond milk, made from soaked, blended raw almonds, delivers these benefits in a bioavailable, easily digestible form. Enhanced with traditional herbs like chamomile, lavender, or tulsi, it becomes a calming, nourishing evening elixir that supports sleep, cognitive repair, and nervous system restoration. Combined with a touch of raw honey and cinnamon, it becomes the ancient world's answer to our modern anxiety. Traditional preparation: soak 1 cup of raw almonds overnight. Blend with 3 cups of water until smooth. Strain through a cloth. Warm gently. Steep a chamomile tea bag or a pinch of dried lavender in the warm milk for 5 minutes. Add cinnamon and honey. Drink in the evening, an hour before sleep. The tree that watches first also watches over the body that drinks from it. 20. Hyssop Cleansing Drink, the drink that made kings clean. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Psalm 51:7. We end where David began, on his knees, asking for purification, reaching for the most specific cleansing agent in the entire biblical pharmacopoeia. Not water, not oil, hyssop. David wrote Psalm 51 after his deepest moral failure, and when he reached for an image of cleansing, powerful enough to match the weight of what he'd done, he reached for hyssop. That tells you everything about what hyssop meant to the ancient world. We've already met hyssop on this list as a tea. Now we go deeper into what a proper hyssop cleansing drink can do. Consumed daily as a lung tonic, sinus cleanser, and antimicrobial protocol. Hyssop contains carvacrol, thymol, pinocamphone, and isopinocamphone, a concentrated cocktail of volatile oils that are among the most powerful natural antimicrobials and expectorants ever studied. Clinical studies have shown hyssop extract has direct antiviral activity. Its expectorant compounds actively break up and mobilize mucus from the bronchial passages and sinuses, making it uniquely effective for chronic respiratory conditions, post-viral congestion, and seasonal illness. As a cleansing drink, stronger than a simple tea, hyssop is traditionally prepared as a cold infusion overnight, which preserves its more volatile therapeutic compounds that heat can destroy. Traditional preparation: steep 1 tablespoon of dried hyssop in 2 cups of cold water for 8 hours. Strain, warm, very gently, never boil. Add raw honey and a squeeze of lemon. Drink 1 cup in the morning, 1 in the evening, for 7 to 10 days during illness or at seasonal transitions. The people who used this plant in the ancient world didn't have clinical trials, but they had something equally powerful: generations of careful observation. They watched what happened when they used hyssop. They watched people get cleaner, breathe easier, heal faster, and they wrote it into the most enduring literature in human history. The science has now caught up. Hyssop does exactly what David seemed to know it would do. It purges, it cleanses, and it leaves the body cleaner than it found it. 20 drinks. Thousands of years of use. Centuries of accumulated wisdom that we nearly threw away in the rush to replace everything ancient with something manufactured. Before I let you go, I need to say this clearly. Quality matters enormously with every single drink on this list. The difference between raw honey in warm water and processed honey in hot water isn't a small difference. It's the difference between a living medicine and a sweet liquid that does nothing. Same with olive leaf. Fresh, whole, properly dried versus an overprocessed supplement. Same with frankincense resin. Food grade, sourced responsibly, versus synthetic fragrance. These distinctions matter. I've linked the specific sources I trust in the description below. Drop a comment and tell me which drink you're going to make first. And if this list surprised you, if ancient people drinking cumin water or frankincense elixir or hyssop cleansing drinks hits differently after understanding the science behind it, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. If you haven't subscribed to Homestead Roots yet, hit that button now and ring the bell. We're here every week, and we're just getting started. See you in the next one.